So let's start with a little bit of audience participation. I'm sure you've all been to a rock concert or are familiar with what goes on at a rock concert. So let me see if you guys are awake. When I say CG, you say rocks. Ready? CG. Rocks. CG. Rocks. A little bit more enthusiastic, please. Just put a little fist pump in it. CG. Rocks. CG. Rocks. Oh, I miss that feeling. Thank you. That is the feeling that you get when you connect with an audience and they respond. And it is a magical feeling. About 10 years ago, I was the bass player in a rock band. To be more precise, it was an alternative metal band. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with alternative metal, it's like heavy metal, except you don't have to grow your hair long or worship the devil. So, worked out great. Now, being in this band was one of the best times of my life. It was exciting. There was so much connecting going on. I got to express myself and travel. It was awesome. But it was also one of the most challenging and toughest times of my life. What made it so tough? Well, in part, it was our lead singer, one of our band members. He was one of the most stubborn, opinionated people that you could ever work with. I know, because it was my brother, Ricky. Yeah. Ricky and I get along great. To this day, we see each other every week. We're inseparable. But when we try to do something together, or at least when we started out in this band, it was such a chore. It was such an effort. You know, I'm his brother, so I'm probably a little stubborn myself. You know, I'll admit it. But when we would get to writing and doing things, it was always bickering and fighting, and we'd argue over ideas and directions. It was tough. It was stressful. We had another member in our band. His name was Martin, the drummer. He's a bit of a Ringo, kind of the quiet guy, real shy. And so he wouldn't add much to the arguments when they were going on. But I got to hear an earful after practice. Martin would come to me and say, "Oh, what's he doing? That sounds cheesy. I don't want to play that." What you have to know about Ricky is Ricky's got his mind made up. When he would come with an idea to rehearsal or practice, he'd say, "I got it. There's a song. It's in my head. Okay, it goes like this, bump, 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 bump," whatever. He'd melody it out in his head, and we'd look at him and be like, "Dude, what are you talking about? I don't get it." And he'd say, "Okay, you got to play the drums just like this. I want to hear this, kind of like that song and like this song, but add a little bit of that. And Matt, you play this bass and kind of add this, but not too much." So he had this whole idea. Now, I don't know, most of you have collaborated, I'm sure, or worked with team members. That's not exactly the textbook definition of collaboration. So Ricky, Martin, and I started out, and we'd argue, and we'd fight, and it was tough, and it was a struggle, and we thought about quitting many times, not because the music was hard, because it was hard to play, or even because we had stage fright, but because it was so difficult for us to get along and get on the same page and communicate and figure out what direction we wanted to take things in. And it took a really long time, a couple years, before we started going from a couple guys playing together to being a rock band. After a few years, we put out a couple albums. We played some of the biggest stages in LA, and we toured, played the Roxy, the Whiskey, a bunch of places on the Sunset Strip, the House of Blues. And we went from being a bunch of guys in a band to being rock stars. And I apparently grew a mustache. I don't know if you could see that. It's horrible. My wife obviously makes me shave it. So, what changed? It was basically the way that we learned to work together, the way we fed off each other and would communicate, would read each other. It was a different environment, but it was something that we had to work at and something that we had to grow to. And when that came, we were rock stars, and it was pretty awesome. I want to share with you part of that process. I've got a song here. It's called Bulletproof. And this is the first part of this that you're going to hear is a scratch track. Scratch track is like a sketch. You sketch on a napkin or whatever, and it's an idea. This is where we evolved to. Taking you back to the earlier part of the conversation, I said Ricky comes in and says, do this and you do that, and that meant nothing. We found that if he could put his ideas down, sketch them, and let us hear them, and let us react to them, that we could then respond. We were communicating. So as I play this, I want you all to play it in your head and understand that this is not a finished track or song. This is an idea. And I want you all to imagine, where would you take this idea? Where would this song go? What would it sound like when it was done if you added to it? So the impetus for this song was my brother came in and he said, I want to capture what it's like for someone to experience leaving their body as they've been shot. So somebody gets shot, the soul or whatever you want to call it is leaving the body. You've got this frantic, pantic heartbeat palpitating. And you've got these kind of ethereal wisps of soul or whatever kind of leaving and panging. And this is what he wanted to capture. And so this is the scratch track for Bulletproof. So that was my brother's idea in his head. And I think, after having talked to him later about this, it was taking on kind of more of an 80s kind of happy feel or something, I don't know. It had the beat, right? And I could see where he was going, but that wasn't where I wanted to take it. And when the drummer heard it, he had heard something completely different. He got energized by it. He said, if you're probably dying, there's a lot more frenzy and excitement. It's crazy. So I want you to listen now to collaboration. When four guys can communicate and each bring their own perspective and unique ideas and their interpretation to something. This is what collaboration sounds like. This is Bulletproof as it's completed.
Could soothe the chords of being come away.
that sound anything like it did in your head when you guys finished writing it? Very different feeling. Something that was greater than where it started. And it wasn't greater because my brother added more stuff to it. It was great because we found a way to communicate with each other, bring out the best in each other, and really highlight what made us unique or bring what we liked to the table. So, why am I talking about this? Am I just reminiscing about the days I was in a rock band? You know, for those of you that are Married with Children fans, the Al Bundy 4 touchdowns in 1 game. A little bit, maybe. But no. Truth is, so about a little over 2 years ago now, I came to Capital Group. And I came to manage projects. And the first thing they did was put me with a team of people who had never worked with each other. Very unique, bright people, their own characters, their own characteristics, their own backgrounds, interests, attitudes. And they said, you guys are going to be working on all these projects together to deliver to audiences, to make a connection. And it struck me. This is like working with a rock band. The people that I went on to work with and to deliver stuff with, I took the lessons from being in a rock band and I shortened that time to be able to deliver value by applying the stuff I had learned working with my brother and with my friends to really deliver something. Now, today I work on the user experience team, and it's almost a perfect analogy, which I love. We've got a user experience designer who creates wireframes for our websites and our digital properties, and that's a framework, a structure, much like the drums in a band. And you've got the writer who writes content and fills to give body and depth to the work. That's a lot like the bass player. You've got our visual designers who add color and life and feeling to something to have people respond. It's a great creative process, and that's a lot like the lead guitarist. And then you have the UX lead who kind of shepherds the work out in front. Not exactly like a prima donna like my brother, but somebody who's just out there in front of the work, leading the team in a direction and really helping make sure that the connection is right. In my role, you ask, I'm kind of like the band manager now. I just get the team from one gig to the next. But I work with a bunch of rock stars, and it's awesome. That feeling that I miss from being on stage, I get when we put something in production, when our users respond, when people use our websites, our mobile apps, our tools, when people understand how they connect with us, and it's valuable to them. That is an awesome feeling. So how do you do that? How do I take that and give it to you? There are 3 things it comes down to, and they're fairly simple. 3 things I want to leave you with that I think will help. The first thing is communication. Now, when I say communication, part of that is being able to express yourself and find a way to get out what you're thinking and your ideas. But the more important part of communication is listening. Listening, empathizing, and really hearing somebody else's perspective, where they're coming from and what they have to say, what you have to learn from them. It's very valuable. And expressing yourself as well. The second thing is embrace what makes you unique. We all come from different backgrounds, have different interests. We've heard so many interesting stories already today. It's amazing the amount of depth, talent, skill, character that we have in this room, let alone this company. Embrace what makes you, you, and bring that to everything that you do in every team interaction. It will make for a richer song, product experience. And the third thing is compromise. So you're listening, you're expressing yourself, you're bringing you to the table, and then there are times when you have to understand where to take a chance, where to give, and where to say, I like my idea, but let's see where this goes. Communication, embrace your uniqueness, and compromise. Those 3 things, you do those on your teams, and I guarantee you, each of you will rock everything you do. Thank you.